All right, we are live and we have sound and we have video and I can hear myself. Okay, guys, 8 o'clock, 9th of July. We're going to do another webinar tonight. It's Tuesday evening. Traditionally, every Tuesday evening, 8 o'clock, we're doing a webinar. Welcome, everybody. Tonight is all about starting and improving relationships. Also remedying relationships. I'll try to get all that data across tonight. My name is Erik. I'm going to be a host. You can probably tell by my accent. I'm not very Irish. I'm not very English. I'm not American either. I'm actually a Dutch person from Holland. Been in Ireland for 2 years now. Been doing quite some traveling. Been out of my country for more than 20 years. Been in various European countries, Latin America, Caribbean. All places where I happily lived, worked, and did a lot of fun stuff. Anyway, it's not about me tonight. I'm basically here to impart some data. And so just this very, very quick introduction about me. I have a background in engineering, in economics. But then at some point, I discovered something that I thought like it was really, really valuable to use in life. Something very, very practical, something very, very insightful. And while I was in college and while I was studying, I always wanted to know more about the human mind. I wanted to know more about life. I was interested in self-betterment. What could I do to improve myself, you know, to make life easier, to achieve more things in life? And so I found some very, very valuable stuff. And one of these things that I discovered, I'm going to share with you tonight. Now, I like to make it very, very interactive because, as you can imagine, if you're here in my position, you only see a camera. And it's always nice to see people, meet people in person. Obviously, you don't really have that with a webinar, but let's find out who we are. So maybe the chat is open. Maybe you want to introduce yourself quickly by just mentioning where are you from and why did you want to attend this webinar tonight. So maybe you want to drop a line in the chat. Meanwhile, I'm going to see who is here. So we're here obviously live on Zoom. We're also on Facebook. We're also on YouTube. We're also on Instagram. So we are on different platforms at the same time. I see that Emma is here. Emma Clark, welcome. Good to have you. Nicolene is the first one who replies. I love that. She's from the Netherlands, my country. Okay, fantastic. Great to have you, Nicolene. Fahad Mushtaba, I think, is this? No, I'm not going to guess, but you've been here before, yeah? So it's good to have you again. Erdina Jasme, I'm not familiar with your name, but welcome. I guess it's your first time. Kate, fantastic to see you. Is this also your first time, Kate? We have Kyle. Kyle has been here countless times, I think. What is it, Kyle? Maybe the 15th webinar that you're attending right now. All right. Fahad, thank you for your comment. You're here from Ireland. Erdina, also from Ireland. All right, your first time here. Welcome. That's great. Kate from the UK, second time. Lovely. Okay, Emma, also from Ireland. Kyle, oh my God, between 15 and 20 times. That's amazing. So it's good to have you around, man. Great to have you again tonight. So right away, I would actually like to start off with a question just to get us started. And that question is, who of you has disagreements or upsets or misunderstandings with people from time to time? You know, who's running into disagreements, upsets, misunderstandings with others from time to time? If you want to pop that in the chat just to get us started. So we establish some common ground here tonight, some reality. Kyle is the first one to answer. Okay, all right. So you're running into disagreements, upsets, misunderstandings? Okay. Nicolene, yes, it happens. Emma, yes, I do, and I can handle it with my family, but I struggle with everything and anyone else. Okay. All right. So let's see, Emma, what we can do about that tonight. Hopefully, you're going to be happy with the data that that I'm about to share. I hope it's going to be workful for you. Kate, okay, it used to be worse. Thank you. All right. Well, maybe we should just get started. So, if we look at any communication, if we look at any relationship, we can actually dissect three very, very important factors in each of those. In relationships and in understanding and communication, there's three super important factors. So we can actually call them interdependent factors. They rely on one another. And let me put them on the board for you. The first one is reality. The second one is communication. And the third one is affinity. Now, I will explain each word in detail, and then you can actually see how they interact with one another. These three concepts, reality, communication, and affinity, they make up a triangle that represents understanding. Good. So we're going to put reality, affinity, communication at each corner of the triangle. Now, the first corner here, let's call it reality. And what do we mean by reality? Reality itself, it could be considered those things on which we agree to be real. So you would say, all right, well, that is clearly a marker. That is clearly a mouse. We would say, all right, well, that's a book. So we can actually say that reality has to do with real things. And by real things, I really mean materialistic things. Things that we can actually perceive by touching them, by seeing them, by hearing them. We can actually communicate them with our senses. So these are the real things of life. Reality, by that we mean the real things of life. And we would actually say that we can agree with these things. So they're easily observable, they're tangible, they're visible. We can actually agree that these things exist. We can have agreement, in other words. So throughout the webinar, I will refer to reality, and we mean the real things, the things that we can agree with. Now, here's a fun fact, just to make us think a little bit, yeah? And just, you see me looking downward because I have my script here, or basically my notes. But materialistic things are easily observable. And therefore, it's just more easier to find an agreement. Conversely, ideas are not materialistic in nature. So with ideas, it's more easy to have disagreements. So with the real tangible things, it's quite easy to agree. When it comes to an idea, something that exists in somebody's mind, it might be very real to that person, but if you can't see it, if you can't touch it, then it might be easier to be in disagreement with that. Now, so first question, have you observed that? If you just look at your own life, if you look at relationships with others, as a fun fact, have you observed that maybe sometimes it's a bit more difficult to get an agreement when it comes to an idea, and when it's more easy to find agreement when it comes to a materialistic object? Have you seen that? Just a fun fact question. All right? Good. So, reality, agreement, the real stuff is very real, right? All right, so I'm going to make a fun statement again. And this is about sane people and insane people. All right? So sane people, sane of mind, they have a very solid agreement on reality. They would say, that is definitely a marker. They wouldn't call it a brush. They wouldn't call it an elephant. They wouldn't call it a pencil. So well, that is definitely a marker. So sane people have a very solid agreement on reality. They agree that these things are real. Now, insane people have imagined realities with which nobody agrees. You might hold that up and they would think it's another thing. It's another object. Good. Let's go to the next corner. So here in this corner we have reality. In that corner we're going to put affinity. And what do we mean by affinity? Affinity is the feeling of love or liking. So you could say, I have a lot of affinity for my husband. I have a lot of affinity for my wife. I love my dog. I have a lot of affinity for my dog. Or you could say, I really love my job. I have a lot of affinity for my job. I have a lot of affinity for my colleagues. So it is a feeling of love or liking, which is kind of like a gradient scale. It could also go down. You could also say, well, I really started to hate my job. I no longer have any affinity for it. And I just don't like my boss. I feel very little affinity for him, right? So affinity is a gradient scale. Now, here's a fun observation. First of all, let's say affinity is the feeling of love or liking. All right? Now here's a fun observation. If you really love something, you want to be very close. Let's say you love your partner. You want to be very close to your partner. But let's say there's a person that you definitely can't stand in the office. Now, you don't want to be close. You really want to keep your distance. So affinity's got a lot to do with space. It's got a lot to do with distance. You like something, you love something, you want to have it close to you. You dislike something, you don't love something, you hate it, you want to keep it at a distance. Okay? Have you observed that? Just a quick question. Have you observed this? You can put it in the chat. Have you loved that? Have you seen that? For example, when you really like something, when you love something, You really want to have it close. And when you don't like something, you hate it, you really keep your distance. All right. Fahad, yes, 100%. Emma, definitely. Nicolene, yes, you have. Very good. So, ideally, when needed, yeah, let's say during a job interview, I'm going to give you an example later on, but when needed, ideally, you would have the ability to be in the same space with somebody else or with something else, right? That if it would scare you, you could still stand your ground and be in the same space. Okay, so that's affinity. Now, a quick question in between. Do you know a person, or have you seen a person who doesn't like people very much? Do you know such a person? Do you know a person who doesn't like people very much? Have you seen that? Please pop it in the chat. Okay, your brother. Well, all right. I wonder how your relationship is with your brother, Emma. Naomi, thank you. Yes. Kyle, yes, thank you. Fahad, yeah, all right. Erdina, a few. Nicolene, okay, not really. Kate, all right. Me, well, that's very honest. Okay, Kate, so what is going on here is that you basically have a low affinity. Or if you know a person who doesn't like people much, that person doesn't have much affinity. Now, Kate, you may want to know what it is that holds you back, and you may want to know how you can increase it. Usually, when your affinity has dropped, that is usually caused by some kind of a betrayal. You trusted a person, that person betrayed you, and you lost confidence, then your affinity would drop. Does that make sense? Does that make sense to you, Kate? Maybe you answered my question already, but usually that is what happens. It is usually, hi Samuel, great to have you. Yeah, it is usually a trust issue. Now, fortunately, it can be remedied because when your affinity drops, things start to have a tendency to go less well with regards to relationships. All right, now, the next question. Do you know a person who easily likes others? Have you seen a person who easily likes others? Please pop that in the chat. Okay, yeah, all right, good. Thank you for your answer, Kate. And thank you for your answer, Emma and Nerdina and Nicolene. That's great. So if you know a person, or if you are a person who easily likes others, then your affinity is quite high. Yeah, your affinity is very high in general. Good. Now, here's another factor to this whole thing. If you love others, in general, you also love yourself. If you like others, you also like yourself. And if you don't like others, then probably you have feelings that you're not really happy with yourself either. Yeah. So now you really want to be a friend of yourself. That is a very, very good condition to be in. That's a healthy state of being to be in. Good. Now, I want to show you something about emotions. And you can actually recognize affinity, the expression of love, the expression of liking. You can actually recognize that by people's emotions. And an affinity as such is expressed by our emotions. So let me show you a little bit how that goes. And before I do that, before I actually give you the whole scale, do you know somebody who is generally cheerful? Who seems to be cheerful most of the time? Do you know such a person? Somebody who's generally cheerful. You meet him every now and then, more often, and this person just seems to be in good moods. Okay. Samuel, yes. Kyle, okay. Me, that's great. Yeah. So, such a person, you could say, when it comes to his or her emotions, that person is, on average, in life, quite happy or cheerful. Okay, now, do you know somebody who seems to be bored most of the time? You do a proposal, but it seems there's no motion in this person. You come home and this person is just on the sofa, zapping, watching different programs, maybe picking up a book, putting back the book, going back for a nap, then just walk around a little bit. The person seems more or less purposeless. Seems like has not any immediate goals, so to speak. Yeah? Do you know somebody like that? Okay, now that person could be said to be bored. Okay, now the next question, and I will answer your chats in a moment. The next question is, do you know somebody who seems to be critical all the time, who seems to be grumpy all the time? Nothing is ever right. It's always bad. The person is critical, doesn't want to listen, nags, seems to be in an unhappy state with himself, with others. You seen that? A person like that? Do you know somebody like this? All right, Samuel. I think you're saying enemy. All right. Good. Naomi, yeah, lots. Okay. Yourself as well. All right. Ferdina, no, very rare. Samuel, yes. Okay. Nicolene, yeah, good friend. All right. Thank you. So that person, it could be said, is antagonistic. And allow me to just wipe this out a little bit. And when that antagonism goes in a bit of a bigger volume, the person could be said to be angry. Okay, now, have you seen somebody who seems to be always afraid of things? You make a proposal and say, oh, not now. No, today is not a good day. Another time. Yes, let's do this another time. No, I'm not good at that. No, I prefer to do something else. I'm not really good at this. Why don't you invite Joe to do this? And hey, how about we start this? No, I'm not prepared. I'm not prepared. And do you actually know somebody who seems to be in fear all the time? And you probably do know, right? So we go a little bit below on the scale and we get fear. And then there's these people who have not really recovered from serious losses in life. Now, many people have experienced losses. Loss of a loved one, loss of a pet, loss of a possession. And some have overcome that. and some are still stuck in it. They would say, if such and such wouldn't have happened in my life would have been so much better right now. What they're trying to tell you is that they're still stuck in the moment, and they're still mourning deep down. Deep down, they're still in grief. And you may know these people that once in a while you just touch a sensitive subject and the person starts to cry, can almost not keep himself from crying. So there we get grief. And when everything has become hopeless, you could say that a person is in apathy. No matter, nothing can be done about this anyway. It's all hopeless. Why even fight? Why even try to do something about this? Seems hopeless. So there we have you could call this an affinity scale. I'm just going to be a little bit brutal and draw a line. So we have a scale here, and you could also say this is a vitality scale. The more up, the more vitality a person possesses. The more down, the less vitality a person has. And likewise, you could also say that when it comes to affinity, the higher up you go, the more affinity, the more love, the more liking the person has, but can also express. The more we go down, the affinity becomes less and less and less, and the whole vector of affinity might just actually go the other way around. It might go from love to hatred and dislike, and from like to dislike. Yeah, there's like a turning point. Okay. You can also see when we speak about affinity in terms of being in the same space, you would see that, for example, when you relate to people who are happy or who are cheerful, they actually love to have you around. And when we go a little bit more down on that scale, and we go to antagonism, criticism, hostility, nagging, these kind of things, you actually get the feeling that you're not welcome in that person's space. And way down below, the person has succumbed and doesn't really have the guts or the courage to tell you that you really shouldn't be in his or her space. That is how affinity behaves. Now, just as an observable fact, we can actually draw a few lines again. And you will find out that in the upper part, the happy person, the cheerful person, even the person who is a bit bored, will still help. Here in this band, where a person is hostile, critical, nagging, making wrong, the person will actually dominate. And the whole communication is more or less along the line, do as I say, or you will feel the consequences, which is domination. And the way down in that area, the person basically tries to make nothing out of things, tries to nullify things, tries to bring things down to zero, to nothingness. Are you really sure you should do this job? so many people have failed at this job already. What makes you think that you're going to succeed? Are you really cut out to do this? Shouldn't you consider to do something else? And more these things along that line. So I'm just going to put a 0 there, which is to say the person tries to make nothing out of this. All right, so just for a very quick observation, have you seen these things in life where people actually in a certain spectrum will help, in another spectrum where they will dominate others, and in another spectrum where they will try to reduce things to nothing? Have you actually seen that? So the chat is wide open. All right, Kyle, absolutely almost every day. My God, your eyes are open, Kyle. That is amazing. Anybody else? Have you seen friends who tend to help you no matter what? Or friends who tend to kind of like not give you the best feeling when you leave? Or their communication is a bit upsetting from time to time. You find a lot of disagreement, and the person is really pushing to agree with him or her. In other words, dominate. Naomi, yes, you have. Okay, Nicolene, people are in a different state after again. All right, Emma, a bit of everything. Helper more, but the boss more dominant area sometimes. Good, all right. So I just wanted to let you know that affinity is expressed like that. It's expressed as love or liking, or a lack of love or a lack of liking. All right, I hope you understand the whole concept of affinity a little bit better. Now, all of us, including you, we are somewhere on that scale in average. If you want to know more about this, and if you want to know how you can actually rise above, at the end of the evening, I will actually present a book to you which is called The Problems of Work by L. Ron Hubbard. And there is a whole chapter dedicated to that emotional scale, that scale of affinity, and how it actually applies in life. So now we have one factor left, and that factor is communication. So communication is very simply the interchange of ideas or objects between people. Mr. A could have an idea and get that idea across. And that could be acknowledged and so on. So there we have communication, which is the interaction between two terminals, you could say. A dog could be a terminal. You could pet a dog and you would get a response. All right, so now we have the three factors. We have communication, we have the real things, we have agreement, and we have some degree of love or liking. They're all interconnected. And I would like to make that more real to just ask you this question. What will happen if you cannot find any agreement with anybody? What will happen if you cannot find any agreement with anybody? Would you have communication? And would you have love or liking? Or would you have affinity? What do you think will happen? You can't find any agreement together. What's going to happen to your affinity? And what's going to happen to your communication? Kyle, I think you're actually speaking before your turn, but it's funny. I like it. Nicolene, depends on your behavior. All right. All right, anybody else? So what do you think is going to happen? You cannot find any agreement. What will happen to the communication? Will it still continue? Or will it stop? And what will happen to your affinity? Will that improve or will that go up? What do you think is going to happen? Fahad, you say, okay, try later. So can I deduct from that that if you can't make it the first time that you're going to try it again? Nicolene, all right, it stops and affinity lowers. Yeah, so if you wouldn't find any agreement, the communication would probably kind of plummet, right? And it would probably lessen. And your affinity would also lessen. So now what is happening is that when we do that, and there was some understanding before, now we have a disagreement, that corner is going to go in. The communication is going to lessen. The affinity is going to lessen. In other words, our triangle that represents understanding has actually shrunk, has actually gone down. So you cannot have affinity, you cannot have liking without agreement and without communication. If there's no communication, well, you can also never have any agreement, and you could not have any affinity. And if you wouldn't have any affinity, which is to say the mental space is very big, you know, there's a lot of space between us simply because we don't really like each other. When the affinity is really dropped to almost nothing, we couldn't have any communication, we couldn't have any agreement. Okay, Emma, so thank you. Let me read that. You'd feel so bad to lower on affinity scale and communication wouldn't be as good either, or potentially getting more aggressive. Exactly. Yeah, or emotional. In other words, you're gonna drop down. And if you disagree, you can do like the person equally. Yeah, all right. Okay, guys. So does that make some sense? How these factors actually relate with one another? Can you see that? Has it become a little bit more real? Has it become a little bit more real for you now? We're not there yet. It's just a question. Naomi, yes, okay, good. Happy to hear that. Fahad, yes, good. All right, now, maybe more people are typing. I'll respond to that in a second. Nicolene, understand. Thank you very much. Let me wipe out something and just see how we can actually start building understanding when there's nothing there. We have to start from scratch. All right, so we've all been to job interviews, right? Sometimes these job interviews, they can just be super awkward. Because the whole question is, how do I talk to this guy? What am I going to say? And if I say something, will I make a fool out of myself? What is the smart thing to do? How am I going to start this? Right? So first of all, you're going to meet. Well, at least if you meet, you're in the same space. At least there is some affinity, some kind of a feeling of love, liking, maybe some disliking, but it might be something to start with. But let's say there's actually really nothing there. Now, so the first requirement is actually to do your best to find something that you can actually like about the person. Now we go back to reality, and in reality we're dealing with real things. Remember, that is the easiest thing to get an agreement on, which is real things. Good. So let's say you're in that space, you're looking around, you're familiarizing yourself with the space, and you find out, for example, that person's got a diploma of Dublin College on the wall. And that person's got this lovely sofa over there. And maybe over there you find a nice, I'm just making this up, a Van Gogh painting. And then you also see that this person, let's say, it's got a schooner, which is a ship with sails and masts, somewhere on his desk. Okay, good. So now you see all these items. You let that just sink in, and you actually find out what this person likes. You actually find out what that person agrees with for himself, what is very real to himself. You pick one of these items, whatever is real to you, and you could simply make a comment on that. You say, "Sir, I really love that replica that you have over there. That is a fantastic schooner. That is a fantastic ship." So you're just starting with something that you can actually like about that person by finding a common ground, a common reality. So obviously you have to find something that is also real to you. So you're going to start with that reality. On a different note, let's say you're in a library and there's this woman of your dreams, and she's turning her back at you, but she's actually holding up a book, let's say on photography. So right now, what you know is that she has A or C for photography, most likely. She has a book on photography in her hands. Apparently, it seems real to you. It seems real to her. So you can actually make a comment. Hey, do you like photography? And you've actually addressed a common reality. All right, so let's continue on this job interview. And you say, "Sir, I really love that replica that you have over there," which is way different from "it's a nice weather, isn't it?" Or "it's a bad weather today, isn't it?" It's still real, but probably hundreds of people before you have said the same. So it might be a little bit boring in the end. I'm not saying you couldn't, it's just this is a bit more of a different approach. So you find something that you can agree with. Now, since you're on the same page, you're on the same interest level, that might actually spark some interest in that person for you. And that affinity might actually start to go up. And you might actually communicate and say, "Well, yeah, that is actually true. I got this schooner from my dad. And I built it when I was a very young kid. I've always cherished it. I still have it." So here's your triangle in the making. And so as he elaborates on that schooner, you could continue on that one. But you could also say, "And I see that you went to Dublin College. I was there too." And you're just building on more agreement. And you will become more real to that person. And as you communicate, that person will become more real to you. So your affinity will also expand and your communication will expand. So now before you know it, that triangle might be quite large and you have quite some understanding there, which is to say affinity, reality, communication with the other person. All right, now let's say here is a lot of understanding. It represents a lot of understanding. We're going to go to a whole different example. And let's say that is the understanding that you have between yourself and your husband or wife. And let's say you're the husband. You come home, you find your wife with a new haircut, and you think she looks absolutely gorgeous. So you address that reality and you say, honey, what have you done? My God, you look beautiful. So you just strengthened that reality. You're again on the same page, and it might get her really happy, enthusiastic. Say, yeah, don't you agree? Oh my God, there's this new shop, there's this new hairdresser in town, and these guys are so knowledgeable, so skilled, and what have you. So the communication goes on top, and you really are in a very big understanding. Now, conversely, you come home and you look at your wife, you say, what have you done? Oh my God, what do you mean? Your hair, it looks terrible. Oh my God, it looks horrible. What have you done? So when you would make a statement like that, what is going to happen to that agreement, that reality? What is going to happen to her affinity for you? Will she still like to communicate with you? What's going to happen? What do you think will happen when you actually obviously are breaking that reality? What do you think is going to happen to that corner and that corner? Is it going to rise or is it going to plummet? Emma, communication might break down. Kyle, affinity will go down. And she'll cry. All right, yeah, very likely. I would say so. So what we're going to have, Nicolene, thank you, affinity plummet. So what we're going to have is, we might have had this before, and now we do something really stupid. We make the wrong comment, and we're all of a sudden causing a tremendous break. We're all of a sudden causing a tremendous break in reality. To her, you're completely unreal by saying this. Does she like you? Well, not for that moment. Her affinity will definitely drop. Does she still want to talk to you? Well, probably in a grumpy manner, but it's going to lessen as well. So we went from this understanding to that much understanding. That makes sense, guys? So we call that an ARC. It's an ARC break. And here's what happens in real life. You build ARC, you destroy ARC. Somebody else is building ARC and then destroying ARC. It's going up and down all the time because people are not aware that by lessening the affinity, or by lessening the reality, or by lessening the communication, that they're actually causing this understanding to break. to break down. All right, now we can try to enforce that understanding. We can try to enforce affinity, reality, communication. I'm going to ask you a question. Maybe in your childhood, or maybe later on, can you recall that you had to kiss a person? You had to. Can you recall such a moment? You had to kiss a person that you didn't want to kiss. Have you ever been there? Can you recall such a moment that you had to kiss a person, like a goodbye kiss or whatever? You had to kiss a person, but you didn't want to. Yes. All right, Kyle. Yeah, me too. Nicolene, I don't know. What? All right. So you really wouldn't find much agreement toward kissing that person. You probably didn't really like the idea of kissing that person. You definitely didn't want to touch, put your mouth, or even talk to that person much, because this ARC, it was demanded. It was demanded. All right, now, here's another one. Do you recall a moment when you felt affectionate towards somebody and that person pushed you away? You ever been there? You felt affectionate towards somebody and that person pushed you away. Can you recall such a moment? Emma, yes. Thank you. All right, now, so when you felt affectionate and somebody pushed you away, what happened to your communication? Did you feel that you wanted to communicate, or did that feeling of wanting to communicate, did that suddenly drop? And did your affinity, did that suddenly drop? Does that make sense, Emma? Have you experienced that? You felt affectionate? You had a high sense of love? And then the person pushed you away. Could you see that you actually dropped in affinity? All right. Now maybe you've seen this. Maybe you've seen that a person demanded of you that you talk to them. Listen to me. No, I don't want you to go anywhere. Just listen to me. Talk to me. Talk to me right now. Stay here. Have you been there? Have you experienced that? That a person demanded your ARC? All right. Yes. Okay, now let me do another one. Bit of a nasty one. Maybe you recall a person who continually had to correct you. No, it's not like this. No, really, you're wrong. You're wrong. You know, it's not like that. It's like this. And the person was continually correcting you. Have you seen that? Exactly, Emma. Yeah. And then eventually you shut down. Okay, Misha. Yes, thank you, Erik, for asking these examples. Quite a few realizations. Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Misha. Happy to hear back from you again. Lovely. Okay, so when a person is continually correcting you, he's not allowing you to have your own reality, which is essentially, he's not allowing you to be you. You can't be yourself. Okay, now, let's see, we don't have that much time. Let me pop a final question. Do you know somebody who affects you badly after you have been in his or her company for a while? And by company, I don't mean work. being together. Do you know somebody who's affecting you badly after you have been in that person's company? All right, Emma, boundary pushing friend of mine. Yes. Kyle, yes. So if you have a look at this, if you hang out with somebody, some people will lift you up. Some other people will bring you down. If you have been in somebody's company for a while and you're not leaving in good moods, that person had a bad effect on you, right? So what do you think? If you just look at that person, what do you think? Does that person like people? Exactly, Kyle. Yeah, such a person does not really like people. What do you think? Does that person tell the truth? So if you've been around, hanging around with a person, or you've been in contact with a person, and have been in company, in that person's company, and it had a bad effect on you, does that person tell the truth? Okay, Fahad, thank you. They don't like themselves and they cannot compete. Kyle, no. All right, guys. Yeah, so when such a person has a bad effect on you, he is certainly not helping you. He is probably more demanding agreement, demanding affinity, demanding that you stay in communication, demanding that you see his viewpoints, which is domination. Or you actually had high spirits. You say, you know what, I have this bright idea. I think I'm going to do this. This all looks great. What do you think? And the person just completely reduces the whole thing to zero. Nullifies it. That will be in the lower band. That gives you an idea what kind of people you could be hanging out with. It also can tell you a little bit more about yourself, where you are. Now, the ingredients of success in a relationship, in any relationship, whether it is family ties, whether it is social, whether it is business, but the ingredients of success are a capability of a very high affinity. The higher you go, the more you will like or love yourself, be happy with yourself, and the more you can actually like others. You can see and understand other people's shortcomings, mistakes, what have you. So if you have that capability to have a high affinity, that is one of the ingredients for success in relationships. Now, the other one would be to tolerate realities. You may completely disagree that somebody would call this a brush. But if you could tolerate it, that would be quite a step forward. You say, all right, I keep that to myself. I don't have to make him utterly wrong. I can see that he thinks that it's a brush. I'm not going to make a quarrel or a big thing about it. I can actually tolerate his reality. Now, finally, another ingredient for success in communication would be the ability to communicate and receive ideas. Now, you might actually think of yourself, okay, I can talk to some people and I can talk about some subjects. But how about you get that ability to talk to anybody on any subject? Now you have real freedom. If you feel you can freely talk to your boss about a job change, about a schedule change, about a salary change. Let's say you could freely talk in public. You just feel free because you have the ability to do so, to simply talk to anybody, a beggar in the street, a CEO in a big company, because you can. And you can address any subject you want. There you have all the ingredients for success in relationships. All right, now, how do we get there? A magnificent starter. Actually, before I get there, are you guys still tracking? Before I go to the finals, are you still tracking? Kyle, yes? Okay. Fahad, yes. Cool. I think I skipped a few. Naomi, lovely, yes. Emma, all right. Emma, good. Yes, that would be great. Nicolene, sure, good. All right, guys. Okay, guys. So, here's the good news. Here's the good news. No matter where you are on that scale, you can actually go up. Have you ever had the idea that you could be more, that you could do more, that you somehow had more potential, and then something was also holding you back? Have you ever had that idea that you could do way better in life? You could be more, you could do more, you could achieve more. You somehow could be more successful, but something was holding you back. Have you ever had the idea? Nicolene, sure, thank you. Well, I certainly had. Emma, yeah, all right, cool. So that's the good news. You do have a lot of potential. And actually, you have an immense amount of potential. Now, if you do want to know more about that, then it's good to have some data on that subject. How can you get to the stage where you can actually be more able to communicate to anybody on any subject, where you can actually go on that scale and be more happier and more competent in life? And to that extent, actually, I want to introduce this book to you. It's called The Problems of Work. And that is because work is basically one of the things that we do in life to be successful. What is so great about this book? This book actually gives you 8 different tools. It gives you 8 tools. One of the tools that I've only give you a snippet of was what I've actually told you here tonight. There's a whole chapter dedicated to that scale, how to use it in life, and how to raise that understanding between you and others. That's just one of the chapters. The other chapters, they actually deal with how you can actually lessen your confusion in life. Then another section is all about control. Now, you may think that control might be a little bit of a bad thing, but trust me, if you don't control your car, it's not going to end well. So it's good to know something about how can I be more in control over my life? How can I be more in control over relationships? How can I be more in control at work and getting things done? Then there is a whole chapter dedicated to efficiency. There is much more. I could actually ask you a couple of questions. Maybe you would like to know how to resolve insecurity. And that you'll find on page 12. Maybe you would like to know how you could be better organized. You'll find it on page 19. Maybe you would like to know what is the basic cause of stupidity and how you can resolve that. You'll find out on page 22. Maybe you'd like to know how you could be more productive. That will be on page 45. Maybe you would like to know what is the secret of efficiency. That you can find on page 62. Maybe you would like to know how you could be more effective. That will be on 67. Maybe you would also like to know how you could gain more confidence and what are the real ingredients of success in life. All of that and much more you actually find in that book. And as we are dealing with relationships, we sometimes end up in conflicts. Like right now, the whole world seems to be quite full of it. So if we would have a tool to resolve conflicts, that could be a massive one. And there's this booklet on how to resolve conflicts. Now, what we normally do is, this book is 17 euros only. You actually get yourself, I don't know, 2 hamburger meals, less, and you have an amazing book that is going to change your life. Just for the price of 2 hamburger meals. 17 euros. What we're actually doing tonight, we're going to toss in the book on how to resolve conflicts. Together, 17 euros, including shipping. That is the offer that I want to extend to you tonight. The link is popping up right now. It's a special webinar offer. While you're having a look, I actually want to have a sip of water, and I'll just let you have a look for a moment. All right, guys. So that was it for tonight. Thank you for staying here. We're a little bit later than anticipated. So this offer is only there tonight with the free booklet. So I would say you already know that you could be more, you could do more, and your first step is actually to get some knowledge on that subject. Now, this whole subject is all about you. This book is all about you. You'll actually find all you need to be more successful in life to start with. There's more that I would recommend at a later stage. This is an excellent starter. It will give you immediate tools. All right, guys. Any questions? Is there anything that you would like to ask at this stage? I see some very, very nice comments. Thank you as always, Erik. It's very informative. Thanks a million. Thank you very much. Thanks. I love your explanation. All right. Found that very helpful. That's amazing, Emma. That's great. Yeah, so at the beginning, I asked you guys, why are you here? Why did you choose this webinar? I hope you got something out of it. It's, of course, just 1 hour. And so it has to be a bit condensed, the information. If you want to know more, click on the link. You'll find a sea of information that's going to help you right away. So we'll be back next week with another webinar. And if you have any questions still, feel free to pop it in the chat. I'll be happy to answer. And Misha, thank you for joining again. Okay, guys, so You've been wonderful. Thank you for your participation. It's been great. I think we all had some fun in doing this. I appreciated the interaction that we had together. It's nice. Reality is a difficult point for me. All right, Nicolene. Yeah, like I said, get some data. Start reading. Wisdom. That opens the door to solutions. Okay, guys. Thank you so much. It's been brilliant. Emma, thank you once again. Have a lovely evening. Have a great rest of your evening. I hope to see you all back again next week for the next webinar. Bye for now.